Do you remember a time when you were a kid and everyone used to sit around and play, and then sometimes you would sit there and talk about what you're going to do when you grow up? Have you thought about the time that when you're talking with your friends and everyone's talking about their careers, doctors, firemen, policemen, and things of that nature? And then the one question that everyone always said is, we're retiring when we turn 40. I can remember that clear as day. My name is Annie Artis, and I'm about to turn 50 in about 4 months. And I'm here to tell you that that reality just hit me really, really hard. It hit me really, really hard, probably about maybe, I want to say the beginning of part of this year, when I started realizing as we're dealing with our last of our children. I have 4 children. I have a 30-year-old down to the age of 17. And it's funny because dealing with such a age span between all of our children, I realized that my 17-year-old is about to graduate high school and go off to college. And then I had a kind of love-hate type situation going on, because at first I said, oh, he's about to be an empty nester. Honey, we're about to run around the house naked. It's about to go down. But then the reality also set in is that the last child, my son, is about to graduate, go off to college, and my husband and I are still working. That was kind of like a brick in my head. It kind of hit me hard, really hard, for me have the reality of is that we're 50 years old and we're still working. And we're working not passionately on things that we really love to do, things that we really desired, or in what I consider your second life, doing your life's goals and life dreams. We weren't quite there yet. The reality was about maybe 6-7 years ago, we used our 401k to reposition ourselves from Michigan out of the cold down to Florida, to the warmth, to the beautiful weather. And we used a lot of our retirement in order to do that. It was a choice that we made. However, now we're about to turn 50. The reality of it is, are we really ready to retire? Is it really time for us to leave our jobs? The question is it, or can we? Can I afford to? Is the question. What I'm going to be talking to you about today are 3 things that we faced in the beginning part of the years that we had to ask ourselves questions. 1, are we able to retire? And can we transition this retirement from working at the age of 50 and transition into retirement successfully? Number 2, is our death benefit set up? That's something that's very, very important, because we recently had my mother pass away and we had to pay for it. 3, it's unfortunate, but it's a blessing all in disguise, because I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world, but I'm a grandmother. So my 9-year-old grandson, does he have his college set up for him? Did I set up my children's legacy in order for them to proceed to be successful in life? As a parent, did I do what was responsible for everything that had to be done? Those are the things that we're going to be talking about today. In regards to number 1, and the first point as far as retirement. Have you ever gone into Walmart and seen an older person standing there waving you, checking your receipt, looking at whether you got the water on the receipt or not? How about going through McDonald's lane and seeing an old lady up there saying, hey, can I also put some ketchup inside of there? Do you honestly in your heart believe that they are there by choice, or are they there because they can't afford to live? The statistics show that majority of the senior citizens that are alive today currently cannot afford to live without having a second income. I work with veterans a lot of homeless vets and veterans that are senior citizens, and a lot of them cannot live with the income of disability or Social Security. It's not enough. A lot of them, I want to say probably in I've reached over 2,000 veterans within 2 years. Of the 2,000 veterans, probably 40% of them are seniors. Of that 40%, probably 35 of that percent is actually needing a second job in order to make it. That's the reality of it all. And that's scary. when you're looking at it right this close. Before it was down tunnel when you're 21 and you're feeling you're invincible. So you're doing everything, you're having fun, but there's no way that you're making decisions for your future. Because why? Because you never think you're going to get old. But now that you're that age, like I am, and you're looking right at it and it's hitting you right in your face, the reality of it is I should have been working very hard at 2021 to make sure that now when I'm turning 50, I have it together. The reality of it is I met with my financial guy. I said, hey, let's have a conversation because, you know, the reality of it is I'm ready to retire. We sat down at my dining room table like I'm sitting here talking to you right now, casually having a conversation. And the gentleman tells me, yeah, the reality is without your 401k, without all these other things. Now, you and I both know that when we always heard about 401ks, we was like, oh my gosh, this is free money. This is my retirement. And the only thing we thought about was that being the only mode of retiring. We didn't think about IRAs, Roths, 401ks, annuities. We didn't think about all of that. All we thought about was a 401k. But did you hear me say that I used that to transition? As the gentleman sat down and talked to me, he said, hey, you will have to work another 10 years. And at those 10 years, you will be entitled to $1,700 a month. $1,700 a month. $1,700 a month. I got to say that one more time because it still hasn't sunk in. $1,700 a month would be my pension payment per month. That would put me at 60. Retirement for Social Security has moved from 62, has been moved to, I believe it's 68. So from 62 to 68, and actually 60 to 68, I would only be living off of $1,700 a month. Did I tell you that my mortgage payment was almost $1,900 a month? That's the reality of it all. I'm in house debt. So not only am I getting $1,700 a month, I'm $1,900 in house debt. And this has nothing to do with all the stuff that I'm working on right now to make sure that I'm not in that kind of predicament at the end of these next 5 years. But this is the reality of what I was facing here in January. When my son came to me to give me that reality check, when me and my husband sat down and was like, whoa, wait a minute. There's some things that's about to happen. There's a major, major life-changing shift that's about to happen within the next year. And the question we had to ask ourselves, are we ready? The question to you is, are you? And I can tell you, most of us are not. He said that to me, and at that point, the reality settled in. And then at that point, I had to ask myself questions. What is my monthly goal? How much could I live off comfortably at the age of 50 and beyond if I was to retire? We don't have that question. We never asked ourselves that question before. Have we sat down and calculated up all of our bills to find out what is it that I could do, or am I going to be required to work a second job to maintain myself? See, my thing about retirement is having ability of choice. Choice for me, for prosperity and for life, is about being able to do things when I want to do it, how I want to do it, when I want to do it, and if I want to do it. That to me is prosperity, and that to me is true retirement. Because if I could get up in the morning when I feel like going to work, or I can have a job as somebody else working and I just collect the check, I'm doing good so that I can go golfing. Because I love golfing. So I can go to golf at 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning and somebody else is doing my job for me. I'm good to go. But the reality of it is most of us are not in that situation. And are we making the plans in order to make that happen? And the question is, no, we're not. We should have been doing that a lot sooner, but now we're at this age, so what are we doing? The next thing I was talking to you about, I explained to you that I also had a situation where not too long ago, my mother passed away. And my mother was just like her mother, and just like her mother, and just like her mother. No one put anything away. No one got a death certificate. No one had their burial policies together. And guess what? The burden falls onto the family. And in this case, it fell on me. So I had to put all the money together, borrow from Peter to pay Paul. And when I say Peter to Paul, I mean from out of my savings account and out of my retirement to bury my mother, who should have already had a death burial policy, who did not have one. And the whole time that I kept talking about it, she refused to get one. She didn't feel that she needed one. But I don't think that she didn't feel she didn't need one, because I don't think she realized how much that was going to be a burden onto me at all. I don't think she realized that. Because if she did, I truly believe that she probably would have made some changes. But she didn't. So the reality was I had to take on a burden of burying my mother after dealing with the fact that I just lost my mother. So now I had to deal with burying her all at the same time. That was pretty harsh for her to put that on me. But I don't really think, honestly, that she really wanted it that way. I just think that the way she was raised, that's why it happened that way. That's the reality of it. The other thing was setting up for my children, my grandchildren, making sure that they were taken care of. And as I said, you know, everything that we do based off of our experiences, based off of what our parents did, based off of what their parents did. We weren't raised to make sure that our grandchildren had it taken care of at all. We were only raised to take care of ourselves, or we were raised to take care of our parents. And that was wrong. It was very selfish of our parents to raise us to take care of them. But then it's selfish for us to not to make sure that our grandchildren are taken care of, or even the children beyond that. So legacy is something that's a big, passionate thing for me right now. It's making sure that my grandson has everything that he has to, or any other of my grandchildren has everything taken care of, so they don't have to go through what we've gone through. That's my job, I believe, as a grandparent. So the things that we're talking about, again, is making sure that you ask yourself some questions. And these questions are really neck-up questions. Honest, truth-fulfilled questions. Questions that you normally don't answer. Like if your child came to you to ask you these questions before, you'd be like, go sit down somewhere. I'm grown. I'm going to do what I want to do. But the reality is, I'm grown and I did what I wanted to do, and look where I'm at now. I'm about to turn 50 years old. And when I'm telling you that I'm taking everything that I possibly can and throwing it into retirement, trust me, there is a lot of money going into retirement, into different policies, different tools, different things that I'm doing to make sure that when I retire, I have more than enough to live off of for the next 50 years, because my goal is to be here for at least another 50 years. So if I'm planning for that, then that means that everything that I'm working for, that changes the decisions on how I purchase stuff. Even with the house situation, a 30-year mortgage, in the reality of it, is that a smart move at my age? I'm 50, 30-year mortgage. I'll be 80 years old when the house gets paid off. Do I really want that? Or do I want to double up and do different things to get that mortgage out of my way, so I don't have that mortgage in these next 10 years when I plan to leave? And actually, I plan to leave my job in 5. So trust me when I say a lot of money is going in our household, we actually live under one payroll. So my husband has a paycheck, I have a paycheck. So we have one paycheck that we live off of, the other paycheck, we're putting it away. Why? Because we're doing some massive overkill, trying to make sure that we're set up so that when we get done, we don't have to ask our children for nothing. You know, have you sat around and listened to your kids have discussions? My kids are pretty cruel. They really are. But they're only playing jokes with me the way that I play jokes on them, because I do some crazy stuff. For example, they asked me for a dog one year. I was like, okay, cool, I'm going to get you a dog. So I went and bought some stuffed dolls and brought them and wrapped them up under the tree. And it was the ones that made the noise. So when they went to the box to open it up, it did the barking and stuff. I don't think they talked to me for a very, very long time. But it didn't matter, but I'm pretty cruel. But they were cruel to me just recently. We were all talking. They said, you wait till you get old. We're going to put you in a nursing home. That's all I needed to hear. Even though they were joking, I honestly took that to heart. So what we have done is basically make sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure that that doesn't happen. You should be able to enjoy your second life. One of our heart's desires, or my heart's desires, is always to open up a homeless veteran women's shelter. And that's a desire that's been on my heart as far as helping women out all my life. Well, if I retire in 10 years off of 1,700, I can't do that. However, if I plan now, I can be able to do that in the future. And so when I retire, now I'm doing something that I love to do as far as giving back. So these are some things that in the future you and I can talk about. We talk about these things on Thursdays at 8 o'clock on Facebook Live all the time in regards to different steps and keys and shortcuts that I'm talking about as far as helping you get your finances transition successfully at the age of 50. Because a savings plan or a saving goal or anything for a person that's 50 compared to a 22-year-old is totally different. Because the things that we're planning for is different from what a 22-year-old is thinking about. So I say that only to say that as we talk in the future and as we meet and discuss things, always do the checkup. The checkup is, am I ready to retire? Am I ready to transition at the age of 50 successfully, the way that's comfortable for me and not a burden unto others? Is the question you want to ask yourself.